So, in today's episode and closing out 2021, I wanted to share a few insights and reminders I got from recent traveling. And basically, TLDR, too long don't read or didn't read, summary is to slow down and the beauty of what that can inspire for you. So, if you want to join me on this journey today about my own insights on what it means to slow down and appreciating those small moments, those pockets of just being right here, right now, then join me on this mini episode. Hi, I'm Leah Federhoff, a user experience designer, writer, and life strategist, and I want to inspire you to thrive in work and life. So, last month, I was in New York for a work trip, and with the pandemic and everything, the last time I was in New York was probably 2 years ago now. And for this particular work trip, I was meeting a lot of new people because I had just started a new job recently, and it was jam-packed. It was a leadership summit. Every day was pretty much planned for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But one thing I did get to do before I flew out was meet up with my cousin for lunch. And during the conversation, right, we're just catching up on each other's lives, work, when was the last time we visited home, those kinds of things. And then one of the things that my cousin ended up bringing up was a memory of how my dad, who had passed away 11 years ago now, was someone she admired and she really felt contributed a lot to how she was raised, how she grew up, and the values that she holds today. Specifically, she was telling me how when my sister and I were still at school, she was 10 years younger than me, my dad would, talk to them everything about like having good table manners or rephrasing questions to sound more respectful to the other person, right? Like, can you please pass this instead of just ordering someone around? But then he'd also take them out for like donuts or things like that. And these are memories, because I wasn't there, that really struck me. And I think it was just a sentiment of hearing of a different perspective of someone who I hadn't really heard from talk about my dad and other memories that, I didn't know he did. I mean, I know he did that in his own way for me, but not those specific instances or whatever those defining moments were, like I'm sure my dad also asked me to rephrase things at the dinner table. But, those were not one of those pivotal moments for me, right? But to hear that from her, and she works in hospitality now, right? In a bit, like this restaurant chain in New York. And I think what's amazing is, like she attributes a lot of that to how, my dad was involved in her life growing up. I think what struck me, two things, right? First, that's one of the reasons, if you go back to my, episode, about like capturing memories. One thing is to share stories about other people, because I have these memories that she doesn't and that I was able to share with her. And I loved hearing her stories about my dad, right? Because it brings him to light and brings him or makes him alive in a different way than even I knew him, right? It's kind of like uncovering a hidden treasure of some sort that I wasn't aware of. And I also confided in her that when I met my husband, my dad already passed away a few months earlier. And then obviously my kids have never met him. And the memories I share with my mom, like, are still the same memories I already have, of, what my mom knows and how I grew up. So hearing about him from someone else definitely felt like a gift, really. But second of all, was that I even found time in the first place from a busy work schedule during this quick trip to New York to have lunch with her, to even be able to hear those stories. So, it just reiterated the fact that, I remember like, this might be last minute. Do you want to have lunch with me? Hitting her up the evening before, even though I've already been in town for a week, just because of, all of the busyness, just trying to even plan the trip in the first place, like prioritizing like missing my kids and all that stuff. So I'm glad I did. And it was a reflection to slow down and to really appreciate a family, the people who have known you for a long time. You can't take that for granted, even though it feels like, oh, they're going to be around forever, or, like maybe they're too busy for me now. Like, there is something so invaluable about reconnecting or connecting with someone who knew you when you were young, just for that additional perspective and reflection, right? Because it makes me think back to like, oh, like there are more memories, right, than I'm aware of. And he's touched so many people's lives. And yeah, it was a really beautiful reminder and a way to honor my dad, in addition to just spending time with family, and just trying to carve out that time, right? No matter how short it was really rushed. Before I had to head to the airport, or attend one more meeting. But I'm glad I did it. So I encourage you, if and when you get the chance, if you're traveling for work or whatever, if you happen to be in the same area as someone that make the time to reach out to them, right? The worst that can happen is that they're out of town or they say no. Secondly, another highlight of that trip was my ride back to the airport. So my hotel was an hour away from the airport. I was in a taxi. I guess it was like more of a limo service taxi kind of thing. But this guy started, just talking about like the different clients, like, sometimes he has to drive someone to upstate New York. But we got to talking about kids, and it turns out his son recently graduated that past May from high school. And he played a song for me that they sang a cappella during the graduation. And it gave me all the feels because, and he played it twice. So I was already like tearing up the first time. I think it was like Jack Johnson's, the song about friends. I'll find it. I'll link it below if you're really curious about the song. But it did make me tear up. And what happened was that I got a flash forward to like, what will it be like when my own kids, who are only 4 and 6 right now, do graduate and do hit that stage? Will I feel like I've spent enough time with them, that I've cultivated or instilled these values that will be pivotal in their lives, even if they don't see it right now? And how will that impact anything that I'm currently doing right now, right? And it's always this constant balance of, am I working too much? Am I spending enough time with them? Are they seeing me thrive, right? Will that also inspire them to thrive when they get to that point of even thinking about their careers, their livelihood, or just their interest in sports, in arts, whatever it is? That time is limited, right? Like, feels like it's going to be forever. And I hear from so many people it happens in the blink of an eye. And when I think back about my own life, like I've been working, in the same, career area for like 13, 14 years now. And that's like after a career pivot. That's probably as much time as I have to like raise my kids before, like they become adults. And that happened fast, right? And it was another reflection or a reminder to slow down, to be intentional. And once again, right, there's so many decisions and so many things pulling my focus and my attention every day, every hour, every minute. And what am I doing to push back on those and saying, like, is this really a priority? And how hard is this decision to go back from? Or if I drop this ball, right? Once again, going back to glass balls, like, is this a glass ball or is this one okay to drop? Will it bounce back if I drop it? And balls will be dropped, right? Don't get me wrong. But I always want to ask if I'm dropping the ones that I will feel good about dropping, right? That's not to say, like, there are family balls I can drop, there are work balls I can drop. And, it's always going to be this constant juggle. But in that long journey, once graduation hits, how will I have influenced my kids, and how intentional will that be? So it was another like self-reflection moment, to slow down and consider that. And I feel like I don't take that time for granted, but also I forget, right? I forget how quickly it could go. So once again, it's just that reminder again to slow down, especially during this busy time, during the holidays, as we're, gearing up for the new year, and just thinking of ways to set these new intentions for the year. I definitely want to incorporate some type of being more fully present, right? And just like keeping that as a habit, keeping that at the forefront. It's never going to be an excuse to be like too busy to, do whatever that is, X, Y, or Z, to spend time with my kids, to spend quality time, right? And it doesn't even have to be about quantity all the time, but it is like fully being present and engaged for as long as I can, because we can't go back in time and these moments are fleeting. So if there's, any reminder that you can take away from this, whether or not you have kids, right? But I think it's a testament to anything you care about in life and cultivating these relationships and how you want to make an impact, whether that's to your community, how you spend your time, volunteering, where are ways that you can change other people's lives, right? Because I think we do ourselves a disservice if there's no aspect of our lives that is giving back. And it's something I had to learn, like probably like only recently, maybe the last 2 or 3 years, because before that, I felt like I wasn't ready to give back. Now, in hindsight, I realize by doing something, by living your life, you're going to be an expert at something, just because you have that experience and you've done something that someone else hasn't. And that knowledge you have and that guidance and experience you can provide is so invaluable to someone who's seeking it. So, find what that is for you and ask yourself, how do I be of service? And part of that is slowing down and being intentional about where you want to spend your time and how might you help someone else. So those are a few of my key takeaways from my recent trip to New York. I encourage you, right, to find that time and space and ask yourself those questions, because it's interesting, right? Whatever those feelings bubble up for you. Like for me, it was this, a few aha moments, bittersweet, right? Hearing about my dad, flash forwards of my kids growing up, but also appreciative, right? Because I was able to experience those two things. I was able to hear those stories, which is something that wouldn't have happened otherwise had it not been being at the right place at the right time, of slowing down and being present for it. So if anything, as we close out 2021 and move towards a new year, or if you're watching this far in the future, right, like wherever you are in this season of your life, figure out what that is. What are the benefits of slowing down? What are those relationships you can cultivate in the meantime? And what are those feelings that rise for you when you hear someone else's story? And how do they manifest back into your life? What might that be a signal for you to do, to appreciate, to acknowledge what you're feeling, and see what learnings you can find from that. So that's all I have for today and for the rest of this year. And I'll see you in the next one. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and share with your friends. And also, if you want more content and inspiration to thrive in work and life, check out Swishie.com, which is currently going through a redesign, and I'm excited to be launching it soon. Until next time, have a great rest of the year, and I'll see you next time here on Swishie. If you enjoyed this, subscribe and share with friends.